Okay, the marathon continues with Lost Season 5, and it was confusing when I first started it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're going for the non-linear narrative a couple steps higher than you have before. This is getting ridiculous, but here's the thing. Once I finished the season, I felt it was a great experience. Because there really was no other way that they could have done it. And even if they had, the little bits of flashbacks that they try and do in this season would amount to even less than they already do. The flashbacks do amount to stuff, but you gotta have your own cheat sheet or the Lost Wiki to keep yourself up to date, and I'm certain that most people that were watching this show when it was airing were using the Lost Wiki to compare all the notes, make sure that they had everything in their mind. Me, on the other hand, I know that if I go there, I'm gonna be spoiled something, so I have to just go in blind. I have actually a lot of confidence that when I rewatch this show down the line, because I'm not going to be getting rid of this show, because here's the thing. I actually got rid of all my DVDs of the US version of Shameless without you knowing, but then I kept thinking about the show over and over again, so I recently bought all of them again. And that's a show that I had a very clear read on. So imagine a show like this that I think is good, but I don't think that I've got the clear reading on. I just know that I'll be doing the same thing down the line, so I'm going to prevent myself from doing that. But when I go back and do it, like with the 2004 Battlestar Galactica, I have confidence that I'll get a lot more of it. Now, unlike 2004 Battlestar Galactica, I'm definitely not going to get all of it the second time around, but I'm going to be getting a lot more because I'll be using the cheat sheets. Right. And also, the non-linearness of this season, they didn't really have any choice, because the only other choice was to focus on Sawyer and Juliet and company for a while as they're traveling through the bits. Then they encounter Jack, Kate, and company, and then you rewind it back in time to focus on their story like you did with Michelle Rodriguez and company back in the day. But unlike Michelle Rodriguez and company, this season demonstrated that they couldn't do it in just a couple of episodes because of Ben playing everybody and Locke having his unique journey. Although, the scene where, Ben goes to Locke, talks Locke out of killing himself, but then proceeds to kill Locke, only for Locke to not really complain about it once he sees that Ben has been through his own death or death-ish. I don't know about that. There's definitely one time where I'm going to need the cheat sheet to understand the dynamic of these two, because these two, they have a similar dynamic, not with each other, but with the island. As demonstrated when they are the only ones to meet Mark Pellegrino at the end. That's who plays, Jacob. I just got done watching Supernatural, as you know, and he's in that show too. Right. But these two have a unique theme, even though Richard guy, there's really something to him as well, although I forget exactly how different he is from the billionaire character that we see at the beginning of this season and for most of last season. Now, I do know that do remember, of course, that the billionaire character is Daniel's father there, but I struggle to remember how Richard's bit relates to him, even though I do think that we do encounter the younger version of the billionaire there, except I forget who interacts with him. It's Yeah, it's complicated. But that would have been like the only way you could have done it in a linear bit, but then you would have lost the thread even more. So moving everyone a little bit at a time and then throwing in these flashbacks, I don't think that they had any choice this time around. Season 3, I kind of felt that they could have done a little bit better with it. This time, And now that I look back on it, it's the same thing that's true for Season 4, because even though watching the special features helped me understand all those flash forwards, yeah, you had no choice with that. Although you really, really had to have been paying attention, I think, to really understand that shift that they were doing. So it leaves me with an odd situation because, on the one hand, I kind of hate how complex they're making the show, but on the other hand, as I've said multiple times, I'm somebody that is willing to think about this kind of stuff. But I'm not going to get everything on the first run through. You think that I was able to keep track of everything in Inception on the first one through? No, even though now I look back on it and I'm like, what the hell? How was I not able to keep track of everything? It's really not that complicated. I've only seen Tenet once, though, so I can't really do the compare and contrasting, okay? So, part of me thinks that I'm being over the top with it, but part of me does feel justified at the same time. It's an odd middle ground, isn't it? Because I'm finally getting a bit more about the island. Now, it's not going to explain absolutely everything, but maybe there really isn't a real reason to know the origin for absolutely everything, because the bunker that Desmond was in, succeeding Clancy Brown, who succeeded the nameless character that he points to a blood spawn in the ceiling and goes, that's him right there. Well, future seasons have established that that was one facility amongst many. Like that polar region thing. Turns out we're probably not going to get a firm resolution on that. That's just one facility. But like that black cloud bit, to me it's just something that exists, alright? I don't really need to understand that. It's nice that you're finally explaining Jacob in a way that I really was not expecting, Dean, but I think I would have been okay without knowing who he was, just as the spirit of the island. I think I would have been okay with that, but we'll see what next season does to go into the mythology of this season, even though I actually would not be too surprised if this season throws up a little bit of continuity with previous seasons. I wouldn't be too surprised if superfans are able to note that. I'm sure they exist, yeah, because, like, Asian guy here, Miles, he portrays himself a little bit differently this season because he was very untrusting of everyone last season, but then the idea of going back and knowing that there's unfinished business, he's in this weird bit where now he trusts them as people, but he doesn't seem to trust them as decision makers. That's a big difference. And yet, he seems more willing to go along with it than just about everyone else. Plus, it seems like that they neutered his power this season, even though there's subtle bits where it seemed like he was having a moment. But, like, they just keep adding more and more characters, even though the total number of characters I don't think has really increased that much, because, after the beginning of Season 3, and you eliminated everybody that was in that tail group, the amount of people that had really... And then you got rid of, like, Steve, Scott, just all those nameless guys who were there as gags, just to remind you, oh yeah, there's other people here. Once you eliminate those groups, total amount of characters, I think, goes up by, like, 2 people? And even then, by excluding Michael and Walt in season 3 and eliminating a couple of those others because of Ben's actions, again, we really haven't increased net by that many people. So again, I kind of feel like I'm talking out of my butt, you know? Right. And then, let's talk about development of some of the main cast. Well, I was really surprised at how this season actually ended up reconfiguring the romance dynamics, and it actually didn't bother me at all. Because, I mean, like, Kate and Jack, the first couple seasons established that there was something there, and Jack had realized in the back of his mind that he has feelings for Kate, even though season 3 had subtle moments to where, you know, they were kind of pushing him and Juliet as a thing, just like how Sawyer and Michelle Rodriguez had an attraction to each other, but obviously it was just that, an attraction, not meant to really be anything. But nothing had really gone in the direction of pushing these two together, despite a couple of subtle hints. But then you have the subtle hints suggesting that Kate has feelings for Sawyer, that is established in season 3. Both of them do have feelings for each other, and it isn't just any sort of opposites attract or anything like that. It's reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back. Just something shifted between those two, and then you realize it's not so crazy, is it? And in fact, it makes more sense than the Golden Boy. Yeah. But getting back to the beginning of last season, they're not on the island anymore, and various bits established that Jack wants a deeper relationship, and Kate, in a perfect world, would want to pursue it, but she's like, you shouldn't be with me, it's just... plus she cares more about Aaron than Jack, it's a fact. But then you have the bits where it's established mostly off-screen, but including little bits and pieces, where Sawyer and Juliet start something. Now, at first, you're like, well, she's the only other prominent female of the same age, so it makes sense. You know, you're going for the theme of that movie Pearl Harbor, even though I've never seen that movie, but I know the dynamic. Don't know the ending, though. But then, as the season moves along, and then you have Sawyer and Kate find each other again, but Sawyer is the only one that's confused. Kate, mostly because she's moved on enough in the romance department, she doesn't pursue anything, and Sawyer's like, but yeah, I loved her, and then she got taken away from me, but the feelings I have for Juliet here are real. I know that. So now he's like, but what am I supposed to do now? But then you realize, even though he knows that he never got to finish things with Kate, you realize, if you really read into his face, he actually knows how it's going to turn out very early on, but he doesn't admit it, mostly because he probably doesn't even know that he's made the jump. He knows he's going to stay with Juliet. I was able to read that in him. And I realized, actually, I prefer this. Jack and Kate, Sawyer and Juliet, I don't have any problems with this. In fact, yeah, it was good. Especially at the end, where Juliet is clearly about to be pulled in, and at first, you know, she's in flight mode. Help me, help me! And Sawyer grabs her, but it's clear that eventually she'll slip. It'll take a while, but she will. Kate does everything she can to help, but she knows I can't get in there unless I'm like holding on to you, and there's no way then that'll work. And then finally, Juliet's rational train of thought, because she's very good under pressure. She's demonstrated this over and over again throughout the show. She realizes, you're not going to be able to get me out of here. And then she realizes, I don't want to die, but it's both of us or just me. I don't want you to die. So she tells Sawyer, I love you, and the look between their eyes, despite what she had just said minutes prior, at least in my perspective, where she's like, I actually would like to reset everything, even if this means that I don't meet you. That was real, and that was not just to get him to let go. It was her to let go, and only her. She knew he wouldn't let go. That was great. It really humanizes Sawyer and lets you know that Juliet was a good person after all. I mean, like, I'd already kind of gotten to that point, despite a few things that she did towards the end of Season 3, right at the beginning of Season 4, but by the end of Season 4, you knew that she had cast her lot with Jack Sawyer and company, and she didn't regret it. So, yeah. Great shifting between them. How, Jin and Sun refer to each other when they have the idea that the other one is alive and then doing that dynamic. On its own, I liked it. When you're adding it into their overall story, the contradiction, it does get to me, especially since the two of them didn't really help everyone else that much. Yeah. They were there, and they're going to do more next season, without a doubt, but, you know, it's an interesting spot for them, I admit. Hurley, unfortunately, he was just there in my mind. Sorry, dude, I can't really say much about you. Saeed, I understand why he did it, but because, I can't keep up with his dynamic with Locke and Ben, who is the one that's been directing him, basically since, everyone got back, it doesn't mean as much as it should. Like, how the love of his life, Nadine or something like that, ended up being murdered, but then it turns out she's only murdered because of a car accident, even though that could have been Jacob. Actually, wait, no. It was Jacob, but he wasn't in the car. He just knew it would happen if he caused a distraction. Right. So because I can't keep up with everything, it doesn't mean as much as it should. But I think that if I did know everything, suddenly I'd have full faith in him. Desmond, unfortunately, even though he was in the season, he didn't really do much. He was just there. And it's like, well, what about the bit about the book, you know? This will be the last book I do. So I can't help but think that he's gonna matter, but yeah. So then, oh yeah, but of course, by the same logic, how come there's nothing more for, Walt? Well, it's there as a tribute to the character, let you know that he's there, and then maybe he gets used as a Deus Ex Machina bit next season. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then what they did with Daniel and then Charlotte, well, again, too many characters, somebody had to go, and that bit with Desmond, it meant something to me when he gets shot by his own mother and he realized that the older version of his mother had known this. But the problem is, it's not that, I'm questioning how he could have existed in this timeline. I'm not questioning that. That's a question that's better served for the original Terminator. Okay? That's a much better question for that. The thing that I question is just that it seemed like his mother was there for another purpose, and then it seemed like they changed the direction. Nah. That's kind of what I got from that. Maybe I'm just missing something again. It's possible. Right. So looking at the cover of this season, I think I addressed just about everybody except for Ben, but again, they're going to kill off that character or leave him in some kind of bad spot. You know, like Jacob waiting for them inside that whatever it was. Maybe he just never gets out of there. Maybe he just stays on the island. Maybe he goes on to the big glory bit. Yeah. This character is going to be written off eventually, probably with an episode or two to go. That's how I view it. Right, so I know that this was a jumbled video, but so are my thoughts on this show. Okay, but again, this is one rare case where it would have been better if I had watched the show as it aired, because my high school weights class, who are the people that helped me get into the show in the first place, though I only watched season 1 back then, as I've said every time an episode aired during either this season or next season, because one of these two seasons was airing where I was in classes with them, they would always discuss stuff. And yeah. So it showed that that was how they were able to keep everything arranged. All of them picked up on different things, they checked online, and all that jazz. So yeah, this is definitely something that I'm going to have to watch again, except unlike Parenthood 2010 show, it wasn't just because I can't keep track of everybody. If I had just had a very simple family tree for that show, that would have taken care of just about everybody in one fell swoop. This show, you needed a lot more in order to keep track of, because Game of Thrones was linear. Walking Dead, for the most part, is going to be linear. This show is not. It's harder. 2004 Battlestar Galactica did have some non-linear moments, but then they went back after an episode and changed at the most. Right. So if you've kept up with me this long and not too close to tearing your hair out, thank you. Rest assured, I do think that I like the show. I just wish I liked it better, you know? See ya. Yes, I'm watching next season. That was a horrible way to end the video.